have just like I guess a devil's advocate kind of
Sure.
Question, because I see it a lot. But so right now we're fighting for religious liberty.
Yes.
Meaning I'm fighting for my religious liberty. So the only way that causes a complication when the religious liberty of two individuals come in contact.
Okay.
So what I've been questioned as a provider by my classmates, and obviously I'm very much in this fight, but is, okay, well, fine, you believe that.
Right.
But your patient believes this.
Sure.
And your primary role towards your patient is to take care of their health.
Right.
So if you don't allow them to do what is according to their religious belief,
Right.
and AKA their health,
Mhm.
because now health is just is such
A
an
religion,
ambiguous
right?
term
Sure.
that you can no longer call yourself a provider.
Right.
So it attacks not only my liberty, but also my ability to serve as a provider, maybe an educator if I'm a teacher. You can broaden the scope and say, this is an attack just on religious liberty, this is an attack on objective truth. And I realized when I was having these conversations with my classmates that if we don't agree on something as fundamental as objective truth, these discussions about religious liberty become much more sticky.
They become harder, don't they?
So it's no question. The Constitution protects my religious liberty.
Right.
But when my religious liberty comes in contact with my neighbors,
right.
What happens there?
Right. Any of you want to take this? Or I'm happy to.
I would, but you can go ahead.
Well, I'll start and then you, how about that? I think this is the reason I just want to start is because I want to say this is a great example of why Catholic Voices is such a wonderful approach. And here's why. Because that's exactly the situation where our approach is designed to turn around the question. So you look at the positive intention behind that question, which is very real, right? The person is concerned about their religious liberty of other people. They're concerned about healthcare. Someone wants healthcare and they don't understand why they can't get it. And so what we would do is we would recognize that those are all valid concerns, okay? But it's at the same time, our tradition of religious liberty says that we allow people, when they have an objection to something, to not be forced to participate in it. And so what you would say is you have an option to opt out, right? And you have an option. That person can get their care somewhere else. They have a right, they have an ability to get that care, but they don't have an ability to force someone to provide it to them, to force one individual to violate their conscience, because there are other ways that they can access that care. You want to add to that?
I think that was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, and I think that, but I think it's a real issue, and I think that it's important to recognize that people come at this in good faith. I mean, they're not trying to. There's not people out there who have this intention. There are some, but there are not everybody you meet. Certainly not the people in your classes are out there trying to be anti-Catholic. They see two goals and they see that they conflict and they want to resolve that. And I would say that in the context we're talking about, religious liberty, we have our constitutional protections and our statutory protections for a reason. And that's because religious liberty is not just an individual right, as it is here in the context you're talking about, but protecting that individual and institutional right builds up the glue in civil society that keeps these institutions together. And so where rights conflict, we settle them we have tradition of settling them by giving opt-outs, by giving exemptions, by having other access, what have you. And that's the goal here, too.
Yeah, I guess what I want to just add is that when we're fighting for religious liberty, I think at the same time we have to fight for like a specific nomenclature, like a way of defining health, a way of defining truth,
right.
so that they can't, so that, like, I guess the people we discuss these things with are not going to necessarily say, well, then you can no longer achieve the health of your patient.
Right.
Because that really puts a provider in a bind.
Right.
Or an educator saying, you're not even willing to teach the truth to your, okay, well, now we're not even talking about religious liberty anymore. We're talking about something much more fundamental.
We're talking about how people characterize health.
I guess what I'm just saying is that there are ways for them to, like, come at these arguments.
I completely agree. And I think that's a great opportunity, though. Again, that's a great opportunity to witness, right? It's a great opportunity to say that pregnancy isn't a disease and that this is we consider this to be an abortion because we believe that life should be protected from its beginning to its end. And this is why we consider it to be a human life from that point. I think I think you're exactly right, that that's where the rubber hits the road and that that's our opportunity to witness. And that those situations, those personal interactions that you're engaging in with your friends and the other students or nurses, those are examples of times when your witness is most profound. And I think you're exactly right. It's a challenge, but it's a wonderful challenge to have.